Top 10 actors who walked away from millions. Imagine turning down $50 million. Not because you couldn't do the job, but because you refused to. Now imagine doing it at the peak of your career, when one signature could set up your grandchildren for life. Sounds insane, right? Well, that's exactly what happened when one A-list actor walked away from the biggest superhero franchise in history. But they're not alone. Today, we're counting down the top 10 actors who said no to fortune and changed Hollywood forever. Some of these decisions were genius. Others, career suicide. And number one, even I couldn't believe it when I found out. In Hollywood, money talks. But sometimes principles, creative vision, or pure gut instinct scream louder. The actors on this list didn't just decline roles. They rejected generational wealth, walked away from billion-dollar franchises, and bet everything on their own judgment. Some became legends because of it. Others disappeared into obscurity. This isn't just about money. It's about power, integrity, and the high-stakes gamble of knowing your worth. Let's dive in. 10th, first entry, Terrence Howard, Iron Man franchise. Coming in at number 10, Terrence Howard, the man who was supposed to be War Machine forever. Here's what most people don't know. Terrence Howard was actually the highest-paid actor in the first Iron Man film. Yes, even more than Robert Downey Jr. He earned $4.5 million, while RDJ took home just $500,000. But when Iron Man became a cultural phenomenon, Marvel came back to renegotiate contracts. And this is where things got ugly. Marvel offered Howard a massive pay cut for Iron Man 2, down to just $1 million. Meanwhile, Robert Downey Jr.'s salary skyrocketed. Howard felt betrayed. He believed his star power helped launch the MCU, and now he was being pushed aside. So he did the unthinkable. He walked, Don Cheadle stepped in, and the rest is history. The MCU became the highest-grossing film franchise of all time. If Howard had stayed, he could have earned tens of millions across multiple sequels, Avengers films, and merchandise deals. Instead, he's largely absent from major blockbusters today. Was it pride, principle, or a miscalculation that cost him a fortune? But walking away from Marvel is one thing. What about turning down the role that defined an entire generation? 9th, Will Smith, The Matrix as Neo. At number 9, Will Smith, who said no to The Matrix. In the late 90s, Will Smith was the biggest movie star on the planet. Independence Day and Men in Black had made him box office gold. So when the Wachowskis approached him to play Neo, it seemed like a perfect match. But there was a problem. Smith didn't understand the script. In his own words, he thought the pitch sounded weird, and the visual effects concepts were too abstract. Instead, he chose to star in Wild Wild West, a steampunk western that became one of the biggest flops of his career. Meanwhile, Keanu Reeves took the role of Neo, and The Matrix revolutionized cinema, earning over $1.6 billion across the trilogy and cementing Reeves as a cultural icon. Smith has publicly admitted he's glad Keanu got the role, saying it was the right decision for everyone. But let's be real, he walked away from a franchise worth hundreds of millions, not to mention the legacy of playing one of the most iconic characters in sci-fi history. Sometimes even the biggest stars can't see the future. But if you think that's shocking, wait until you hear about the actress who rejected the biggest romantic role of the 1990s. 8th, Gwyneth Paltrow, Titanic as Rose. Number 8, Gwyneth Paltrow, who turned down Titanic before Kate Winslet became Rose DeWitt Bukater. The role was offered to Gwyneth Paltrow. At the time, Paltrow was a rising star, and James Cameron saw her as the perfect fit. But Paltrow wasn't interested. She later revealed she had doubts about the script and wasn't drawn to the character. So Kate Winslet fought for the role, sent Cameron handwritten letters, and eventually won him over. Titanic became the highest-grossing film of all time, until Avatar, won 11 Oscars, and turned Winslet into a global superstar. Paltrow, meanwhile, went on to win an Oscar for Shakespeare in Love, so it's not like her career suffered. But she missed out on one of the most culturally significant films ever made, not to mention the tens of millions in box office bonuses that came with it. From romantic epics to gritty crime dramas, our next actor rejected a role that would go on to win an Academy Award. 7th, Matt Damon, Avatar as Jake Sully. At number 7, Matt Damon, who said no to James Cameron, twice. Cameron wanted Damon to star as Jake Sully in Avatar. And he wasn't just offering a paycheck, he was offering 10% of the film's profits. Yes, you heard that right. 10%. Of Avatar, the highest-grossing film of all time. Damon turned it down because he was committed to the Bourne franchise. He's since called it a $250 million mistake. And he's not exaggerating. With Avatar earning nearly $3 billion worldwide, Damon's share would have been close to $300 million. Instead, Sam Worthington got the role and became an international star overnight. Damon? He finished the Bourne series and continued his successful career, but he'll never live down the $250 million what if. But imagine walking away not once, but repeatedly, from one of the most beloved sitcoms in television history. 6th, T. Leone. Friends as Rachel Green. Number 6, T. Leone, who almost became Rachel Green. Before Jennifer Aniston became America's sweetheart on Friends, the role of Rachel was offered to T. Leone. She turned it down, not once, but twice. Leone was committed to another sitcom that she believed had more potential. That show? It was canceled within a season. Meanwhile, Friends became a global phenomenon, ran for 10 seasons, and made its stars millionaires through syndication alone. Jennifer Aniston still earns an estimated $20 million per year from Friends reruns. Leone's career continued, but she never reached that level of fame or financial security. One decision, one role, a lifetime of what-ifs. Now we're entering the big leagues. Because our next entry involves an actor who rejected a role so iconic, it literally created a new genre of cinema. 5th, Sean Connery, The Lord of the Rings as Gandalf. At number 5, Sean Connery, who didn't understand hobbits. Peter Jackson personally flew to the Bahamas to offer Connery the role of Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. The deal? $30 million up front, plus 15% of the box office. If Connery had accepted, he would have earned over $400 million, potentially the biggest acting payday in history. But Connery didn't get it. He admitted he didn't understand the script or the fantasy genre. He passed. Ian McKellen took the role and became a legend. The trilogy won 17 Oscars and grossed nearly $3 billion worldwide. Connery later said turning down the role was one of his biggest regrets. He was so bothered by the decision that he accepted a role in another fantasy film, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which became a critical disaster and prompted his retirement from acting. One no ended his career. One yes could have made him the highest paid actor of all time. But if you thought that was brutal, wait until you hear about the actor who walked away from playing the greatest villain in modern cinema. 4th, Jack Nicholson, Michael Corleone, The Godfather. Number 4, Jack Nicholson, who said no to The Godfather. Francis Ford Coppola wanted Jack Nicholson to play Michael Corleone. Nicholson was a rising star, edgy, intense, perfect for the role. But Nicholson believed the film should be made by and for Italian Americans. He didn't think he was right for it and declined. Al Pacino stepped in. The Godfather became the greatest film of its generation. Pacino became a legend. And Nicholson? He's admitted in interviews that he respects the decision he made, but there's no denying he walked away from one of the most iconic roles in cinematic history. Sometimes integrity costs you immortality. We're down to the final 3, and trust me, what's coming next will blow your mind. 3rd, Emily Blunt, Black Widow, MCU. At number 3, Emily Blunt, who was this close to becoming Black Widow. Before Scarlett Johansson became the face of one of Marvel's most iconic heroes, Emily Blunt was offered the role. But there was a scheduling conflict. Blunt was contractually obligated to star in Gulliver's Travels, a fantasy comedy that bombed at the box office and was critically panned. She had to pass on Black Widow. Johansson took the role and appeared in 9 MCU films, earning an estimated $60+ million and becoming one of the highest-paid actresses in the world. Blunt has said she has no regrets, but the math speaks for itself. One contract, one conflict, tens of millions lost. All right, we're almost there. Number 2 is a story so wild, so controversial, it nearly destroyed a career before it even started. 2nd, Jim Carrey, Saturday Night Live cast member. Number 2, Jim Carrey, who was rejected by SNL, then rejected them back. Here's the twist. Early in his career, Jim Carrey auditioned for Saturday Night Live and was turned down. Years later, after becoming a global superstar with Ace Ventura and The Mask, SNL invited him to host, but Carrey wasn't interested in hosting. He wanted to prove a point. He eventually hosted years later, but he never became part of the SNL legacy the way stars like Eddie Murphy or Adam Sandler did. And while SNL can launch careers, Carrey proved he didn't need them. He became one of the highest-paid actors of the 90s and 2000s, earning $20 million per film. He didn't walk away from millions. He walked away from validation, and made even more money doing it. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. Number 1. The most shocking, most controversial, most jaw-dropping decision in Hollywood history. First final reveal, Lawrence Fishburne, Pulp Fiction as Jules Winfield. Number 1, Lawrence Fishburne, who turned down Pulp Fiction because he didn't want to glorify drug use. Quentin Tarantino wrote the role of Jules Winfield specifically with Lawrence Fishburne in mind. Fishburne had already proven himself as a serious actor, and Tarantino saw him as the perfect fit. But when Fishburne read the script, he refused. He believed the film glamorized heroin and violence, and he didn't want to send that message, especially to young black audiences. Samuel L. Jackson took the role. Pulp Fiction became a cultural phenomenon, revitalized independent cinema, and launched Jackson into superstardom. Jackson earned an Oscar nomination and became one of the most bankable stars in Hollywood. Fishburne's career continued, but he never reached that same level of mainstream icon status. His decision was rooted in principle, but it cost him a defining role and tens of millions in career earnings. Was he right, or did he let morality get in the way of legacy? So there you have it, 10 actors who walked away from millions. Some made the right call. Others, well, hindsight is 20/20. But here's the thing. Every single one of them made a choice based on what they believed was right at the time. And in Hollywood, that takes guts. Now I want to hear from you. If you were in their shoes, which role would you have taken? Would you have trusted your instincts like Will Smith or rolled the dice like Sean Connery? Drop your answer in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another deep dive into Hollywood's biggest secrets. Trust me, we're just getting started. Which of these actors made the biggest mistake, and who actually dodged a bullet?